Okay, in this video we're going to talk a little bit about Eclipse Workspaces and how they can get confusing if you don't pay attention. So here's my workspace right now. It's in my Users Fehrenbach Documents Workspace folder. And if I open up Eclipse, what it's going to do is it's going to ask me where's my current workspace. And you'll notice it says exactly where it is. So at school, that's going to be J:/workspace. You always want it to go there. And at home, it's wherever you put your workspace. You just have to pay attention. Now, you could have multiple workspaces like I tend to do. So if I wanted to open a different workspace, I would click Browse, and I'd find where my other workspace is. So, for example, I have one like no, not in there. It's in the previous year. So let's see. Let's go this year, and then here, and then there's a workspace. So I have a workspace with all these projects in it. I have a workspace here with all these projects in it. So you can have multiple workspaces. You really should probably keep it to one. What will end up happening though is either you will or another person will create a workspace on the exact same computer, and Eclipse gets confused when there's more than one workspace. So whenever you open up Eclipse, the first thing you should always do is just double check that the right workspace is here. So here, this is where my workspace is. Do not check this box. If you do, and I'll show you what happens if you do, it's going to remember that workspace. And that creates a problem if the next person who uses this computer with Eclipse chooses a different location for their workspace. So like this seems great. If I quit out of Eclipse and reopen it, it's going to open. It's going to be not going to be asking me for the workspace. It's just going to straight open up. Which is normally okay if it's defaulting to the right workspace, but sometimes this will open up and you won't even have your workspace here. You're like, what stuff is this? It'll be somebody else, either someone else's stuff, or you won't see anything at all. And you'll be like, oh my God, all my projects are gone. The most likely thing that you need to do is go to File, Switch Workspace, and then this menu will come up, and then you can select the correct workspace. Another thing you can do, and I would recommend this, I think it's under Window, no, it's under File. There is it's somewhere. Where the heck are the preferences? Somewhere in here. I thought it was under Window. File? Oh, here it is. Under the Eclipse menu, it says Preferences. And if you search for Workspace, one of these options will allow you to decide whether or not it prompts for Workspace on startup. You want it to prompt for Workspace on startup. Make sure that's set as OK. So that way, every time you open Eclipse, you look at that and make sure it's the right workspace. So to show you what happens if someone else has created a workspace, so I'm going to switch workspaces now to another spot. I'm going to call it Workspace 2, and Eclipse will relaunch. And because this is a new workspace, and you can see it already made a folder down here, there aren't going to be any projects. And initially this can be very frightening. Like the first time you open up Eclipse and suddenly you see this and you're like, where are all my work? How is this not here? What's likely happened is the wrong workspace folder has been opened. So right now I'm in Workspace 2 instead of Workspace. Workspace 2 doesn't have anything. So what you have to do is go to File, Switch Workspace, and then pick the workspace that's correct for your files. So now it's reopening Eclipse. This time it's picking the correct workspace. And so now I see my projects again. So if you ever open up Eclipse and you don't see your projects, don't think they've been deleted. You should first go and make sure that you have the right workspace, do switch, and see what it says the workspace is, and make sure your files are there. Also make sure when you're at school that it's on the J drive. You want to make sure your files are on the J drive. You probably don't have write access to the C drive. One other thing that you should know too, that I'll point out to you, is that these workspaces are actually very large. So this Workspace 2 folder, for example, actually they've shrunk it. It's only 500K. That's not so bad. It used to be several megabytes, so they're doing a better job of keeping the workspaces smaller. But if you have these extra workspace folders that you don't need that get created, make sure you delete them just to keep space free, because on your J drive you'll run out of space if you have too many extra workspace folders. So to recap, we've talked about how to select a workspace in Eclipse. Please make sure that This window always comes up that the checkbox that was here when Eclipse opens is not checked, so that every time it opens up, it'll ask you for the workspace. Make sure it's the right one, make sure it's the J drive, and if you do that, hopefully everything will be okay. If anytime you don't see your projects, make sure you have the right workspace open. All right, if you have any questions, let me know.